In a quiet town called Eden Village, there lived a humble pastor named Pastor Daniel. He was known for his gentle smile, deep prayers, and his strong faith in God. Pastor Daniel was married to Sister Grace, a kind and peaceful woman who supported his ministry with all her heart. They had one son, a cheerful little boy of 5 years named Samuel, who always ran to his father shouting, "Daddy, bless me before you go." One evening, after his usual prayer time, Pastor Daniel heard a still small voice. "My son, arise. Go to Oboni village. I have work for you there." He knew that voice. It was the voice of God. He told his wife about it. Though her eyes filled with tears, she smiled and said, "Go, my husband. Do God's work. The Lord will be with you." With a small bag and his Bible in hand, Pastor Daniel set out for Oboni village. When he arrived, he went straight to the chief of the land, Chief Olamide, and explained his mission of evangelism. The chief, surprised but happy, said, "Man of God, you are welcome. This land has been dry for long. Maybe God has finally remembered us." They gave him a small house to stay in. That night, he knelt down and prayed, "Lord, take over this land. Let your name be glorified." The next day was the first day of his revival program. Only a few people came, but God moved mightily. The blind saw, the sick were healed, and many gave their lives to Christ. By the second day, the whole village gathered. People came from nearby towns just to see what God was doing through Pastor Daniel. But as the light of God spread, darkness grew jealous. The agents of darkness in the land were not happy. They met secretly and said, "This man is destroying our works. We must bring him down." They sent 3 young women, Tina, Amora, and Busy, beautiful and cunning. Their job was to make Pastor Daniel fall. After one of the evening programs, the 3 of them approached him with smiles. "Pastor, your preaching really touched us," Tina said sweetly. "Yes, Daddy, we thank God for your life. You are doing wonders," Amora added. Pastor Daniel smiled, "All glory be to God." But the more they came, the more they praised him, not God. They brought him small gifts, food, money, and new clothes. At first, he refused, but they insisted. "Daddy, we are just showing love." He thanked them innocently. As days went by, they grew closer. "Daddy," Busy said one afternoon, "can we be cooking for you? You shouldn't always eat dry Garian bread." He laughed and said, "No, I'm fine." But they persisted, and soon they started cooking in his house. Slowly, without knowing, Pastor Daniel's spiritual fire began to go down. His midnight prayers became shorter. His fasting became weaker. He started spending more time talking with them. They began to behave carelessly around him, talking too freely, laughing too much. He didn't realize the trap was closing. Weeks turned to months. The man who once heard clearly from God could now hardly hear that still small voice. The 3 women continued visiting until one day, the unthinkable happened. Pastor Daniel fell into sin with them. After that day, he felt empty inside. His peace was gone. His sermons lost their power. People still came to his programs, but the miracles stopped. The man of God who once healed others now struggled to pray for himself. Whenever he visited home, Sister Grace noticed a change. He spoke less, prayed less, and his eyes no longer carried that old fire. One day, he came home with one of the women, saying she was helping with ministry work. Sister Grace's spirit was troubled. That night, she told him quietly, "My husband, I don't feel right about that woman. Please be careful." But he replied, "Don't worry, dear. God is with me." Weeks later, Pastor Daniel fell sick. At first, he thought it was malaria. But the sickness grew worse. He became weak, lost his voice, and sores appeared on his body. He was taken to several hospitals, but doctors found nothing wrong. They gave him injections and medicines, but nothing worked. Lying on the hospital bed, he called his wife close. Tears rolled down his face. "Grace, forgive me. I have failed God and you. Those girls I told you about, I fell into sin with them. That's why this has come upon me." Grace wept bitterly, holding his hand. "Why didn't you tell me earlier, my husband?" He whispered, "Pride blinded me. I forgot that every glory belongs to God, not to man." Doctors tried their best, but Pastor Daniel's condition worsened. On his last night, he held his wife's hand and said weakly, "Tell Samuel that Daddy loves him. Tell the church to always keep their eyes on Jesus. Don't ever be carried away by praises or gifts. It is God who heals, not man." With those words, he smiled faintly and took his last breath. Sister Grace cried until her voice broke. But in her pain, she forgave him. She stood before the small church and told them, "Let us learn from this. No one is too anointed to fall. Stay humble. Stay close to God." That day, many wept and rededicated their lives to Christ. The story of Pastor Daniel spread across many towns, not as a tale of shame, but as a warning and a lesson of mercy. And though the pastor had fallen, his final words brought revival once again. Because in the end, God was still glorified.